Welcome aboard, everybody. Time to talk NBA. We do it on a Saturday, a rare Saturday appearance, but our NBA insider was doing a little traveling. We bumped him over to Saturday and said, let's talk on Saturday. After all, the Knicks got a big game tonight against the Houston Rockets. I'm glad I didn't get to talk to Sean Deveney yesterday. I mean, it was coming right off of that Pistons thing. I've had another 24 hours to heal my bloody wounds. We'll definitely get into that matchup, Knicks and Pistons at the Garden. Not fun for Ben
Where
Stiller.
are you guys now? Is that fourth in the Eastern Conference standings? Is that you down there?
All right, easy. Easy there, buddy. Easy. We're not in the playoffs yet, pal. Not in the playoffs yet, when it all matters. All right, but it is time to talk all things NBA. We are presented by Northeast Roofing Professionals. You see them right above me. NERPCNY.com for all your roofing needs. And today's video is brought to you by our friends at Creative Florist in Liverpool from the Allen Floral Group. And we'll have a little bit more to say about our friends at Creative in just a little bit. But let's welcome him in from Heavy.com, our NBA insider, the one, the only, Sean Deveney. What's up, Sean?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Yes, a little better mood today than I was yesterday, so it's kind of good. I was kind of relieved that we had to push our interview back a day because I was like, good Lord, I don't want to talk to him coming off that thing because I watched every minute of that Knicks Pistons game at the Garden. I really thought after two beatdowns earlier this season that the Knicks in their own building with celebrity row filled with celebrities that indeed we'd certainly show up for the game, and even if we didn't win, we would show that we're game enough to compete with the Pistons, but that did not happen. And it is also, Sean, slowly building the case that Cade Cunningham might be a really legitimate MVP candidate. So let's talk about the Pistons, what they've been able to do. They have the best record in the regular season in the Eastern Conference. How tough are they going to be as this season moves its way closer and closer to the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the word that really stands out about the Pistons, and that is that they are a tough team, and they're going to test you in a number of different ways. They're sort of built for the playoffs a little bit more than some other teams in the Eastern Conference, where they're going to be able to play point of attack defense. They're going to be able to play, defense on the back line. They're going to have a number of guys they can throw at you who are going to throw elbows and really push you. And that's something I think you see with the Knicks. They struggle with. The Knicks want to play basketball, and they're good at that. But they're not so good once you kind of push them and get them out of their comfort zone. They don't respond well. And that's really been the theme of this team as it stands over the last couple of years. Whereas the Pistons are quite the opposite. They're going to push you. They're not a hugely talented team. You mentioned Cade Cunningham, and that's no disrespect to him. Of course, he's fantastic. But you go up and down the roster, this is not a team that really stands out for its talent. It's more the role players fill their roles around Cade Cunningham, and you got a lot of guys who are going to throw elbows and really test you as a team in the playoffs.
And by the way, this was an undermanned Pistons team without Jalen Duren and a couple of other their players. So this was not even the full roster.
Right.
Meanwhile, the Knicks, for the most part, had their full roster. And I want to talk to you about some of the late additions. We talked a little bit about Alvarado. I want to talk to you a little bit about Sochin. But before we get to that, two things coming out of that answer to that question there. One is you talk about the Knicks, coming up short, and it's just a recurring theme. Karl Anthony Towns and the fact that he is just an anomaly. I mean, he is capable on any night of scoring 30 points, and then he is capable of doing what he did against the Pistons the other night and only taking 3 shots and a half and looking awful on defense and being taken advantage by lesser players for sure, as he had the phantom defense going on, even had that attempt to go up, layup blocked. It was very embarrassing. Even Jalen Brunson on the bench was like, hide my eyes. My goodness, what is that guy doing? And so I want to talk to you about that, about this idea of what Towns is, and is he going to continue to be a problem for the Knicks? And the second part of this question, do the Knicks have anybody that will be able to guard Cade Cunningham? They need to figure out that puzzle before they get to the playoffs, because there is likely going to be a showdown if the Knicks hope to get all the way to the promised land.
Yeah, so I think there's a few things there. Obviously, number one, the problem with Karl Anthony Towns has always been this lack of toughness, this lack of ability to kind of throw some elbows and establish his space and get rebounds and act like a guy who's 7'1". He runs so well. He's so athletic that he can play like a 3. And there's so many coaches who have wanted him over the years to play like a 5. And Mike Brown has come in this year, and then we talked about this before that this was his big goal, was to get Karl Anthony Towns to play like a 5, get him to block shots, get rebounds, still, of course, use his offensive advantages, but also play like a big guy. And that's not gone well. That's, here we are at the end of February, and we're still talking about Karl Anthony Towns as a guy who's not getting what the Knicks want him to do. So that's a huge problem. The toughest guys on the Knicks right now are Mitchell Robinson, of course, who you can only play 15 to 20 minutes a game. We'll see what happens in the playoffs if that can expand a little bit. And Jose Alvarado, who's only been here for 4 games. So, right now that's where they are. When you talk about trying to stop Cade Cunningham, I think that's one of the reasons they brought in Mikal Bridges. I think they've been disappointed in the level of defense that Mikal Bridges has been able to play. If you follow Mikal Bridges' career, if you go way back, he really made his name in shutting down Steph Curry when he was with Phoenix, and of course Curry with the Warriors. And Bridges never really matched that level of defense that he used to play in his first couple of years, and that's a real issue. So, do you have Jose Alvarado playing a lot of minutes to try to calm down Cade Cunningham a little bit and take some pressure off of Jaylen Brown? That's going to cost you offensively. There's a lot of decisions there for the Knicks to make that they don't really seem prepared to make at this point.
They don't seem prepared. No, I'm afraid not, Sean Deveney, that Knicks team. That's real tough. You hate to see it.
You hate to see it. I'm sure you hate to see it.
You do. Anywho, let's get to some other topics here on the program. This is something we touched on last week, but it seems like we're moving forward here on the anti-tanking stuff, Sean Deveney. The NBA plans on enacting anti-tanking rules next season. And there's some interesting stuff in here from interesting, lottery protections, that changing. Maybe that can affect it here. Lottery odds freezing at the trade deadline has caught the attention of a lot of people saying, oh, well, that would boom. How does that not affect it right there? Then you lose all the stuff at the end of the season here. And there's a long list of stuff here of teams can't pick the top 4 back-to-back years and a lot of other stuff in this. And we could go all the way through it, Sean, but does any of them strike you as like, oh, this could be effective or this isn't, or something? Is there something that works here in this jumbled pile of suggestions that could be a part of the anti-tanking force of the NBA?
Yeah, and I think it all could be somewhat effective. I mean, the thing about any of this stuff is that it can be got around. Like you can work your way around, even if you shut off the lottery odds at the middle of the season. Then you're just telling teams, hey, you know what? Start tanking in October. Like if that's where you're going to go.
Right.
But I do like the fact that it does make it, from February through the end of the season, there's no incentive to lose, at least. But and from what I understand too, that's also the least likely of all these proposals to get through. So a lot of things that came out, sound pretty good, but they all have ways to work around them. There's really no way to get around this. Another idea that I've heard is that maybe you have sort of compensatory picks, where if you finish in this tier, you get an extra pick as a first rounder, and that's something that could come up as well. So there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of proposals out there, and I think a lot of them do make sense, and certainly could help a little bit. But you're really never going to get rid of the idea unless you just flat out, and this was one of the proposals, unless you just flat out make it a flat lottery. Like I'm going to pick 1 through 15, and you have as good of a chance as number 15 as you do as number 1. That's going to wind up being wherever you pick. So that's probably the best idea, and that might be where we wind up heading here.
Talk with Sean Deveney, Heavy.com. It's the Manchild Show with Boyd Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Pop that subscribe button. Become part of our growing army. And as you see below in the scroll, we have membership now as well. You can join the 12th Manchild and support the channel. So feel free to do that as well. Just click the join button when you get to our homepage right there at MC Show Digital, and that is on YouTube. Sean Deveney, let's get to the crux of this tanking thing. I said this about steroids a million years ago when I was one of the strongest voices out there in the world, anti-steroid lurch, they called me. I think that was my nickname. I said, it's very simple. You want to stop steroids in baseball? Here's the answer. It's very, very simple. First offense, you sit out the season. You're gone for an entire season. Second offense, you're gone from baseball. Okay, go play in Japan or somewhere else. You're not playing American baseball anymore. Bye-bye, which likely is bye-bye Hall of Fame and everything else that would go along with it. It's very easy. You just place harsh penalties and people will stop. One example is all you will need, and people go, uh-oh, I'm not doing that anymore. All right. For tanking, it's very simple for me. You offend, draft pick lost. Okay? It's just that simple. You lose it. So now everything you were fighting for is now gone. Do that once or twice to two teams in the NBA. Tanking finished. We're all done. We're on to the next problem. It's a very simple equation. I don't understand all these gyrations and fines and let's do this and we can modify it and forget it. Just take away draft picks.
No, I agree. And, I've heard so many people come up with these explanations of, you need tanking because it does. Mark Cuban wrote this whole thing on Twitter that was about 1,000 words, and I read it, and he made some good points, and that's true. But look, why do we have a draft? We have a draft so that the teams with the least talent have the best chance to get the best talent, and that will provide some parity for the rest of the league, right? That's it. And if you're going to violate that by somehow trying to lose and trying to be the worst team and trying to sit players, then no, you're out. Like, that's it. If you're found to be doing this, then you're out. That's it. And I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on Adam Silver's discretion. What is he going to call tanking and what is he not going to call tanking? But at the same time, like, I'm okay with that. Like, if that's what it takes, if it takes just Adam Silver saying you're tanking and you lose your draft pick, that's it, then I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that. It's pretty clear to all of us when a team is doing this intentionally. And some of the things we've seen certainly this year, there's no question, and it throws the whole integrity. And this is something we brought up before. Is like you're in bed now with all these gambling companies. So how are you going to tell DraftKings? Well, the Utah Jazz, they tried for 3 quarters and they lost, and so all the people who bet on them, well, the heck with them. That's just not. That's not really going to fly. So yeah, it's a very tricky issue. But I agree with you. I think you got to have a hard line and just say you lose your draft pick. That's it. Next, and I think that'll stop it.
Sean, can you give us the insights here on Silver? So I know how the rules sort of work with Roger Goodell being sort of the overlord as the commish, but the checks and balances that exist for this tanking thing, for instance. Could Silver just go, hey, this team, you're tanking, boom, here's the punishment? Or is there he could come up with a punishment, has to be like, judged by, do we have a couple of branches of the NBA government that has to sort of check this thing out before, or is he the judge, jury, and executioner?
He could be if he wants to be. I don't think he wants to be. And I think that, if you watch his interview at the All-Star game, it was pretty clear that he wants to kind of leave this as a fungible issue, but it is up to him, no question. If you're going to cut out draft picks, the one thing you would have to do with the players' side is make sure you still have 30 draft picks somehow. So the teams that had, the first pick in the second round would get bumped up to a first-round draft pick because the union wants to make sure that you still have 30 draft picks because of, for salary reasons. But no question, Adam Silver could take this issue over completely if he really wanted to.
Talking with Sean Deveney, Heavy.com, our NBA insider. Today, we are presented by Northeast Roofing Professionals, and our video is brought to you by our friends at Creative Florists. Let's just take a moment here, hear from our sponsors, and then we're back with Sean. I want to talk about a player that Boy Green and I is actually a mutual player, a rarity in our world, a player that played for both of our teams. We'll explore that when we return. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. More coming up right after this.
Finding the right local roofing company can be tricky. You don't want to hire the wrong roofers, or you could end up spending a fortune on repairs. The pros at Northeast Roofing Professionals can ensure your home is protected by a strong and sturdy roof. Locally owned and operated, over 30 years experience, free estimates, and competitively priced. Don't settle for an inexperienced roofing contractor. Turn to Northeast Roofing Professionals. Discounts for military and first responders. Reach out and let them put a sturdy roof over your head. NERPCNY.com. NERPCNY.com.
All right, we are back talking all things NBA. Sean Deveney, our NBA insider from Heavy.com, and I mentioned a mutual player. Yes, Boy Green.
Oh, I know who it is.
Mutual
I know who
player.
it is.
You do? Who is it?
Yeah, Nate Robinson.
No, it's not Nate Robinson. It is a guy that probably you are more fondly of than I am because we drafted him. We thought he was pretty good, and then he betrayed us, and then he ended up playing for that horrific team that wears green and white. And I see a little clover over Sean's shoulder there. Keep hiding that with your head, Sean. I like that. I don't want to see that clover in the background. That's the other way. Go the other way. There you go. Oh, get rid of that thing. Oh,
Nice.
All right. And that's Kristaps Porzingis.
KP.
Who was traded at the trade deadline and now is part of the Golden State Warriors. And I actually saw a sighting. Porzingis back on the court. Curry's still not there. But when Curry returns, are the Warriors a team that could get in the mix here at all? Do you see it with Porzingis or not, assuming he stays healthy, of course?
I do if Steph is out there. They don't have enough passing. They don't have enough, perimeter talent to make what Porzingis can bring you, especially when he's playing with another former Celtic, Al Horford. They tried that last night or the other night against the Celtics, and those two together, I think they can work well, and they did work well in Boston, and they could work well with Golden State, but you need great guard play to get those two guys the balls, get them in the right spots, to all that stuff. So if Steph Curry isn't there, then it's sort of you're just running out two big stiffs, and they're not going to be able to take advantage of everything that they could possibly do. So I like Porzingis there, and I do think it was a good move. To get him for Kuminga, and they got a lot of criticism for that, but I think in the end that wasn't a bad move for them. But the question is Steph going to be out there? And the thing about Steph is they say, well, okay, he's going to be out 5 games, but he's got this runner's knee thing. He's going to be reevaluated in 5 games. They don't know that he's coming back after 5 games. They're going to look at him again in 5 games. If they don't get him back, then having Horford and Porzingis out there together is pointless. You need a really good perimeter presence out there, and they don't have that right now.
By the way, let's give Sean some credit here. Okay, he guessed in the private chat that we have off air. We went to commercial break. He went, Porzy? And so bonus points.
I was kind of like, is that who we're talking about?
Yeah, right. So bonus points to Sean Deveney behind the scenes for that one. And also, Lurch, can you put a little more respect on? I'm sure he was a top 5 pick of the Knicks.
No.
But NBA champion Kristaps Porzingis, KP, a key piece to that championship puzzle. So, a little more flowers could have been required there for one KP, sir.
You're lucky his wacko brother didn't get involved when he was in Boston. Could have dealt with that, okay? We deal with all kinds of whacked out stuff in New York, that's for sure. I did have a couple others quickly on the Knicks, just to go back for a minute, Sean. One is the acquisition of Jeremy Sochin. So what can you tell me about this play? I mean, this guy's 22 years old, and what was really cool to me, and we got a peek at him there in that Pistons game, was he's a good-sized guy. I mean, he was standing right next to Cade Cunningham, and I was like, wow, they look identical. If this guy could play defense, maybe he could be our elixir here to shut down Cade Cunningham in the playoffs. What kind of player is he, and what do the Knicks expect to get out of him?
Yeah, I mean, he's sort of a point forward and a guy who can handle the ball even at his size and can do a number of different things. It was always a mystery. It was a mystery to a lot of people why he lost his role in San Antonio. They obviously picked him as a top 10 pick and he played pretty well under Pop, and then they made the transition to Mitch Johnson, and something happened in there where something got lost in translation. Obviously, they got a lot more talent, and that probably had something to do with it. But to just say that this guy has no role and we're going to release him was very, very strange. I thought it was strange that the Knicks that he decided to go to the Knicks, and that B that's where they went. There's no question. What they were looking for on the trade market was a big man, and they weren't able to find one. That's why they wind up with Jose Alvarado, who was, sort of their fallback position was let's get a point of attack point guard. And then even with the other roster spot, they decided, there's no big guys who are going to be out there that are worth getting. So they wind up with Sochan. Is he that much better than Mo Diawara? I don't know. I think Mo, certainly in recent weeks has shown that he's a pretty good player, pretty good 3-and-D guy as well. So I don't know how much this really improves them, but certainly he's got a longer pedigree in terms of his NBA resume.
Knicks play the Rockets tonight, another big matchup. The Rockets are pretty red hot. What keeps surprising me is I keep seeing Kevin Durant highlights, and I'm like, wow, this guy doesn't look like he's aging. He can still score the basketball. Kevin Durant is playing very, very good basketball for the Rockets.
It's good because he's not doing so well on Twitter. It turns out.
No,
that's one of the big
accounts. Apparently,
that's one of the big question marks about him is what's going on in terms of how he's talking about his teammates and all that stuff. And we can laugh about it, but it is a real thing. And it is. You talk to people around the league, and I talked to somebody with the Warriors, and they were saying, even as he was winning 2 Finals MVPs. And he was, winning championships. He was the most miserable guy. Like, he was just a miserable guy. And you could see it certainly in Brooklyn. I mean, if you paid attention to what was going on with the Nets when they had Harden and Durant and Kyrie Irving, that was a miserable team. They were not happy to play with each other. And then you could go to Phoenix, and now you're going to Houston. And you can kind of see it. So as well as he's playing, there's this real sense that there's a cap on how far you can go with Kevin Durant as your best player, because he's just like, nobody likes him, and he doesn't like anybody. And when you're trying to be a team that goes far in June, that's hard to do.
Sean, a very scary situation last year. Victor Wembanyama, blood clots, and when we hear that, we've seen it in a couple of different of our major sports, a big star, something happening like this, and it's scary. We normal people that aren't doctors are like, oh, blood clots, like, oh geez, what is this going to mean for his future? And well, apparently nothing. Great recovery from this thing here with the blood clots, and the Spurs are looking awesome here. Man, I haven't heard many people bring up the blood clot thing since last year, outside of ESPN doing a story on it very recently over the last couple of days, highlighting this amazing sort of transformation from last year to this year and where the Spurs are. Anything you could provide on this, Sean or Dr. Deveney?
Well, for one thing, from what I've been told about the blood clot thing, and you get a lot of people, you're going to get whatever you get on Twitter about, well, it's the vaccines and all that stuff. From what I understand is that what's actually happening is there's much better testing for these things. And so they come up a lot more because they never used to test. You could talk to guys who played 20, 30 years ago. They weren't really testing for blood clots. They weren't really testing for that. They weren't looking for it. And so a lot of guys probably played through it without even knowing that they had that issue. So that's I don't think there was ever anything with Wembanyama that was really physically going to damage what he could do on the floor. It was more just working out the things in his lungs and making sure he could breathe okay and all that sort of stuff. And he's certainly done that. And they've been fantastic. I mean, if anybody's going to knock off the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's going to be the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, they are so well built. They're ahead of schedule. Their young guys, I think, have been really fantastic. We talked about Sochan being released, and like I say, part of that is their young guys. I mean, one of the things that they've done, they've won. I think they've won 7 in a row. Was moving Harrison Barnes, who's the one sort of veteran guy on the team. They moved him to the bench, and they've really taken off since then. And that's indicative of everything that team. Just a really really well built roster around Wembanyama, and you really see the results.
Sean, last one for me. We're still a long way away, but hey, it's getting closer and closer every day. But seeding and what seeding in the East looks like. You heard my colleague there snickering at the beginning of the interview about the Knicks are currently in 4th place. They've played one less game than the Cavaliers, but they are now equal in the loss column. The Cavs have really pulled it together since the trade deadline, and obviously they were pretty aggressive there. So they're back in it for sure. The Celtics continue to play good basketball. The Pistons remain atop the league. How important is it, seeding in the East? I mean, certainly the Knicks don't want to end up in the 4-hole. I mean, where they'd have to face the Pistons in the second round rather than face them in the Eastern Conference Finals if even both of those teams got there. So I would tend to think that actually the regular season is going to be somewhat meaningful here in the East if you really have dreams of getting to the finals.
Yeah, I do think that's true, but I also think you got to think about the first round. I think that as much flack as the East takes for being weak, I think it goes 6 deep. I mean, the Sixers have been pretty good, and if you have a healthy Joel Embiid in a 7-game series, nobody in the East can really account for that. That's going to be a really difficult thing. And right now they're the number 6 seed. And Toronto has been a very, very good team as well that, nobody really talks about. And they're currently number 5. So I think, if you're at the top of the conference, you really want to make sure you're 1 or 2. So you're facing in that first round, you're facing the 7 and 8 or whoever gets out of the the play-in tournament. You don't want to be, I wouldn't want to play the Sixers right now in a 7-game series. If there's a possibility that Joel Embiid could be healthy, what a wild card that is, right? And so I think the East, for as much flack as it takes, I think it's a little tougher than people give it credit for.
And I noticed Lurch when he was going through, he's saying, oh, this team's this seed, this team's this seed. Yeah, the Celtics are there. And then the Pistons are number 1. Yeah, the Celtics are number 2, Lurch. 2, second best team in the East. That's another way to say it. It just seems like you're having a little trouble. I don't know if you need a drink from your MC Show digital pint glass over there or something to wet the whistle to say it a little easier on Boston.
Well, I think the question, and I'd ask you guys, is how much do you believe in the Cavaliers with James Harden? Do you think that's a sort of a team that's set up to just fail because it's James Harden, or do you think it's a team that, they can score a lot, they've got some defensive pieces? I don't know. That to me is the big question: is what are the Cavaliers?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I am not a big truster of Harden, but the fact that he's got Donovan Mitchell on the same roster, you don't have to trust him at the same level because that's the guy that you want to have the ball at the end of the game. But if Harden can provide things earlier in the game and be the scorer that he's capable of being, that gives them another weapon. And they have some pretty nice defensive players too. Cleveland's really put together a very nice roster. The one thing I would say about the East is if you look at some of these rosters, you look at the Pistons roster, you look at the Knicks roster. If the Celtics were healthy, I would include their roster. But they're not, obviously, and they're missing one of their most important players. So those 3 teams, the Knicks, the Pistons, and the Cavaliers, the depth I mean, those rosters are deep. They go very much, down to 10 guys. They have a lot of versatile guys on the bench that are really, really interesting. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite players on the Knicks right now is Landry Shamet. I mean, every time that guy comes in the game, he does two things. He hits open shots, which is all you want from a guy coming off the bench. And this little scrawny guy who looks like he shouldn't be able to defend anybody defends. I mean, he defends better than Karl Anthony Towns. That's an embarrassment to have to say that, but that guy is a better defender than the Knicks center. That's pathetic. Yep. I like Landry Shamet. He's scrappy, he plays hard, and he defends. He puts his body at risk to stop opponents. I love that. Love it.
Yep. And I agree. I mean, that's one of the issues with the Knicks is that their toughest guys are like 8, 9, 10 in the rotation.
Crazy, right?
Like they have some tough guys, but they're 8, 9, 10 in the rotation. So what do you do? How much do you play them? That's going to be really an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, it feels like Josh Hart has lost a little of his moxie lately. I don't know. Maybe he'll turn it back up for the playoffs. We'll see. There is a difference between playoff and regular season basketball. And Boy Green, just to remind you, okay, while you're throwing out all your we're number 2 seed thing and we have the better record and wait for us. Do you forget what happened in the playoffs last year? Oh, you the number 2 seed? Last year too? Yeah. What happened in the playoffs? Beaten down.
We got injured, man. We had injury.
We got injured when the Celtics were down 3-1.
That's the only reason.
Was that 5 games that we did that in 5 games? We didn't even.
If we didn't get injured, we won the whole championship. So.
Okay, Sean Deveney, as always, my friend. Thank you for talking some hoops with us. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.